the Edwardsville Children's Museum Board of Directors. And then Stacy Bauer is our actual executive director that runs the museum. And so she had joined us the end of last year. And so I told her I would do this presentation because we're kind of training and doing the whole thing. So I'm not sure how many people are familiar with the Edwardsville Children's Museum. You? Just a couple? If you have a little one, you're real familiar. So how many kids, or how many of you have a grandchild that's under 10? Okay, so it's a great place to go. I want to tell you a lot about the Children's Museum today and kind of what we're going through right now, and to see if we can get any help along the way so that we can be as successful as we can for long term. So the Children's Museum is located in Edwardsville. So if you're familiar with on 159 where the market basket and the softball fields are, we're the old LeClaire School, the historic LeClaire School back there. So we do not have a sign on the main road, so a lot of people aren't really familiar with where the museum is, which is kind of a struggle. It's that whole city enforcement thing, Roger.
Edwardsville's tough.
They are tough, tell me about it. So our mission is to stimulate curiosity and to motivate learning in children by providing interactive exhibits and programs. The history of the museum, we started in 2003, we opened to the public. And so at that time, we had a little over 30 exhibits that the kids could actually come into the museum, they could do different programs, and they could really just spend time bonding with their parent or their grandparent at that time. Since then, we've been around for 11 years now. We celebrated our 11th birthday this year. We call them birthdays instead of anniversaries because we're kids, you know. So, I guess our special segment would be 18 months to 8 years of age. Those are the kind of the age group that we really cover as far as the strength of the exhibits, the programs, and the education that we teach. The museum welcomes over 12,000 visitors a year. So just to give you an idea, it's a very busy spot. So if you're not a fan of the little ones, probably stay clear of that little area. We are open on Tuesdays, Fridays, and Saturdays from 10 to 4. And then everybody's like, well, they could probably do better if they were open every day during the week. Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday, we have field trips for schools. So we're open every day. We're just open to the public 3 days a week, okay? Our services are pretty expansive as far as what we offer to the community. We, of course, have the general exploration, which you can come in and you can just explore the museum. As far as the cost, you're gonna $5 per person under 12 months old is free. And then our membership annually is $40. So the whole year you can come as often as you want for $40. It's a pretty good and inexpensive resource to use for your children, especially through the summer, because last summer was blazing hot, and so we were packed. We were at max capacity every single day that we were open, because parents do not want to sit outside with their children when it's that hot. So the other programs that we offer, like I said, field trips. We do guided lessons, so you can actually come to the museum, and we have staff that is educational focused, and they guide you through the museum, through the different exhibits. We also do outreach programs, which we go to schools and actually teach a lesson on science or a lesson on engineering or something like that. We do the Girl Scout programs, so if you have a Girl Scout in your household or a granddaughter that's a Girl Scout, we do a lot of the badge classes where they can get their badge for doing a certain project. We participate in the Route 66 Festival and the LeClaire Park Fest. And then we have our summer camps and our preschool playgroups. So our summer camps are getting ready to kick off right now. We do them for several months. There's a lot of different fun ones to do, and I know a lot of the parents in the area are always looking for somebody or somewhere for their child to go, possibly to still have that educational focus, but it's still fun. In October of 2013, so last October, we actually announced a Save Our Museum campaign. So I'm not sure how many people are familiar with this campaign. We decided that we, as a board, wanted to raise $100,000 in order to keep the museum open. A lot of people, I think, in the community felt like $100,000, that's for 1 year, that's crazy. That's actually for 10 years for us to stay open. So we wanted to refill our reserves that we have for the museum to be able to stay there long term. We didn't want to go out and do kind of it's called Crowd Tote, where you set up a website and people make a donation to it. We wanted to do it where we got businesses to sponsor the exhibits inside. Because if you haven't been inside the museum, it is like a little city. Everything's at a lower level, so the buildings duck, or you're gonna hit your head on the top of them, but so you have your police department, you have your fire department, you have a library, you have your market, cafe, a dentist office. So all of those places are in there throughout the museum with several more. And we wanted to make sure that we partnered with the community members that had those types of businesses. Through that entire process, we wanted to make sure that we also revitalize the museum. It's important because for 11 years it's been the same. And that is, me being the president, that does not get people to come back to the museum consistently. And so you need to spice that up constantly. And the parents don't want their child to be bored when they come there. So we are revitalizing a lot at the museum. So we have, of course, the police union decided to, in Edwardsville, is sponsoring the police department. We always had a prison, like a jail in there. My husband and Stacy's husband are both police officers. They didn't like the jail. They thought it was bad, like emotional stuff. So I said, what's the problem? I'm like, kids love to go in there. And he's like, it's really not a good marketing tool for the police department. I'm like, oh, okay. What would you suggest is like a crime lab? So we added a crime lab. They can now figure out their fingerprints, because there's a certain number of styles of fingerprints, so they can look at their hand and they can figure them all out. The fire department union sponsored the fire department, and then Scott Credit Union Bank sponsored the bank. And so now it's a credit union, there's an ATM in it, and different things like that. So it actually brings everything that's going on in these businesses down to the child's level to figure it out. And we have a ton of programs as far as teaching kids about money, saving, and everything like that. The most recent one we're getting ready to start the build out on is the dentist office. So I'm not sure how many people are familiar with the Heighton family in Edwardsville. They're oral surgeons and general dentistry. I'm gonna get my water, sorry. And general dentistry. And we decided that because kids have such a hard time going to the dentist that first time, I think it's just as scary for the parent as it is for the child to go. We decided to put one there so that they can see all the tools that they use, and they can sit in the chair. They can be the dentist, the parent. So we actually have a full-size dental chair. There's x-rays, they can look at teeth. They can learn how to floss, brush their teeth, everything like that, in addition to the tooth fairy. That's a very, very important part of the whole exhibit.
What's the going rate for tooth fairies now?
I don't know, I heard, and I'm a little nervous, because we are still growing teeth at my household. So I don't know, it could be like $10 by the time my son loses a tooth. I don't know. Some of these people are leaving like a $5 bill under the pillow, and I'm like, how many teeth do you have? It's a lot of money. So whenever we decided, you're probably thinking, well, how does this museum need to have funding? That's a logical question we get asked a lot. We work off of a $90,000 budget a year. That includes all of our staff, which we have nobody's full-time, so we have all part-time staff. Stacy works 30 hours a week, and everybody else is part-time based on birthday parties and programs that we have. The $90,000, and we do not pay any rent. We do not pay for any of our utilities, and we pay $1 in rent to the city of Edwardsville for our building. We want to be as clear as we can as far as, and there's no debt for the museum. So when you sit there and you think $90,000 is pretty small of a budget to run a facility like this, $100,000 gets us pretty far. Because what was happening, we have about 600 field trips a year, and that's down to 300. And I know that you guys kind of look at your school districts and you think, yeah, ours has taken a lot of cuts, and the state of Illinois is challenging. So I'm sure, I would have never thought that would impact the Children's Museum, but it does. That was a major revenue source that we had that was coming in. And we still get field trips from all over, a ton from Missouri, a ton from Illinois, all of the counties surrounding Edwardsville. But they're just not where they used to be. So at the end of the year, when we looked at the budget, we would have to pull about $2,000 from our reserves for the last couple years. And so when you start doing that, the reserves wasn't that big anyway. And so we thought, well, we either have to close the doors or we need to see if the community wants to back it. And the community decided that they wanted to back it, which the board of directors, there's 12 of us, was so pleased with that. The publicity and the marketing that we've had for it has been fantastic. And then the donations were down, of course, due to the economy. I'm sure you guys have that whole thing. And then the lack of awareness, that's a big part, because the city of Edwardsville never really allowed secondary businesses that sit off the main street to have a sign on the main street due to the sign ordinance. We were never allowed to have a sign on 159. So you would literally have to be stopped right by that Madison County Transit stop and look to the right to see the museum. The only way we can market the museum is through social media, so a lot of the Facebook, a lot of our website, and a lot of those things. It gets a little challenging. So I went to the city of Edwardsville, did a presentation, and we have been awarded a sign now. So we're very excited. We're designing that right now, and so that should be out there, and I think that'll drum up a lot of awareness. Because there's so many families in the surrounding area, and they're like, I didn't even know there was a children's museum. And every time it's like a knife. I'm like, how do you not know? But it just makes us realize how many people are just not familiar with it. So there's ways that you can support the museum. You could sponsor an exhibit if there is something that your family has always been very involved in, or you have a nice collection of things that you don't want to go by the wayside if something were to ever happen with a family member and you thought it was a nice collection for kids to learn. You could always donate that to the museum. You can work as a volunteer. If you know any retired teachers, we're always looking for teachers to come in and do story time on Fridays to read to our little kiddos that come in. Monetary donations and then in-kind donations. We also, you can sponsor a program as well. So if there's like a preschool play group or a summer camp that you really like, you can actually fund just that individual program. So I'd like to take any questions that you guys have and answer them for you. And hopefully, if I don't know it, Stacy will. But I really appreciate your time today, and it's nice to get out of Edwardsville and to speak to people about the museum, because we are the only one in the surrounding area right now, besides going to Missouri to the Magic House. And if you haven't been to the Magic House, I mean, if you haven't been to either, the Magic House is huge. Like when I went, it was one building, and that was the one where you put your hand on that ball and your hair raised. It took me 3 hours to get to that ball when I went back this last time. It was gigantic. I don't remember it ever being that big. And so the museum in Edwardsville is very quaint. I mean, it is 4 schoolrooms that pretty much make a circle. And so the kids they feel very safe, the parents feel safe. You can't really lose anybody. I mean, we make sure all the little nooks and crannies are closed up, so. But I can take any questions that anybody has. Yes?
What are the hours?
It's 10 to 4 on Tuesday, Friday, and Saturday.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Any other questions?
Where do you go on field trips? What kind of field trips do you take? Just, you said Magic House was one.
No, the field trips come to us.
Oh, they come to you?
Yes.
Sorry.
And then, like, there's certain teachers that maybe plants and certain sciences aren't their strong suit, so they'll maybe bring them to the museum and we'll do that lesson for them. So Boeing actually donated $5,000 last year to us, and we did the science room. We redid the whole thing. So in there's a lot of things that have to do with science and teaching the children about that. So the field trips have really increased this year. Another thing that really challenges the museum is when you change the whole education, the Illinois state standards. You wouldn't think that that would impact a museum that much, but every single thing is based on education. So we had to refocus all of that energy on those items to make sure it matched their curriculum.
Do you have a website?
We do. It's edwardsvillechildrensmuseum.org. And then Stacy has some information for you too, your cards and stuff, in case anybody wants some. Did you have a question?
I was just gonna ask where it was, but I could go to the,
Oh, no. Do you know where the market basket is in Edwardsville?
yeah.
And there's a softball field right across the street, like a little softball area. Right, look, if this is the softball, we're sitting right here. The building's a little bit further back, and it's 722 Holyoke is the street.
Near the water tower.
Yes, right across the
Landmark.
street. Thank you.
You said you,
I'm a girl. We choose like our smaller landmarks.
you said you worked with Girl Scout troops?
We do, a
running
lot.
troops also?
Yes.
And how,
And juniors, daisies, all of them.
they just contact your,
The head of the Girl Scouts usually does the organization part, she contacts us and tells us what batch they need to be working on, and then they come to us.
just send a text to my daughter.
Yep.
Oh, great.
I just,
Thank you.
like I said, with my sister-in-law, she's home with 3 girls.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so it'd be
Yes.
perfect for her.
They would, I I mean, and we have a video out there that Save Our Museum, and, you know, it's on the website, so if you're out there, click on it, it's pretty neat. But I mean, when you see these kiddos come in there, and my husband always laughs because they always want to be a fireman. They never want to be a police officer.
Yeah.
And so he's like, we've got to get this police department ramped up. It needs to be the coolest. And I'm like, okay, I'm not offended that nobody wants to be a banker. Like that's, or a librarian. I'm like, you don't see everybody else knocking on the door. So it's kind of funny to watch, but when the kiddos come in and they're like, you know, oh, I cannot wait to be a fireman when I get older. And one girl comes in and she said, well, I just want to be a better person. And you're kind of like in the video. And you think, wow, that's, you know, her parents are teaching her pretty well. And we've had several kids that have saved their allowance and they've made that donation to the museum because they don't want it to close. So it's definitely made its impact in the community. So if you get a chance to use us as a resource, we would love it. Give us a chance sometime if you can. Thank you so much.